Today on O News, we'll be investigating Oakland's gang injunction. Is it an effective way of fighting crime?
We also have a story on the new acting police chief of Oakland.
And our KDUL News team interviewed people on the street about their thoughts on OPD.
All that and more coming up, so don't reach for those controllers or mouse buttons. O News is starting right now.
Welcome to O News. I'm your host, Jocelyn Olivares.
And I'm Vanessa Cuevas. A real-life story heads to the big screen. The movie, Fruitvale Station, opens in theaters in July, but we have a preview for you here on O News. This movie is based on 22-year-old Oscar Grant, who was shot and killed by a BART police officer. The shooting took place at the Fruitvale Station here in Oakland more than 4 years ago. The film was honored at the Sundance Film Festival, where it won 2 big awards. While the movie highlights the shooting, it also looks at Grant's struggles with his life. The BART officer who shot Grant was charged with murder, but then a jury found him guilty of manslaughter. The officer spent less than a year in jail.
The Oakland Police Department has a new acting police chief, Sean Wentz. He has been with OPD for 17 years and most recently as a deputy chief overseeing internal affairs. Wentz took over right after Chief Howard Jordan suddenly went on a medical leave in early May. Now it will be Chief Wentz's job to have the department comply with court-ordered reforms that are a decade old and to reduce the number of murders, burglaries, and robberies. Chief Wentz says that crime is a top concern for Oakland residents and, quote, "The plan is laid out. We're fighting crime and we are going to advance compliance."
And were you at the press conference where the new consultant, Bill Braden, was introduced, right?
Yes, we're the only student reporting crew there, and here's what former Chief Howard Jordan and consultant Braden had to say.
We're fortunate to have him here. We asked for his assistance in terms of helping us develop a short-term crime prevention plan. Bill is here to work on our CompStat model to help us address our homicides, our robberies, and our burglaries.
My position is to advise the chief, to consult with the chief, that we are not here making decisions. We're offering advice and counsel. That's what we're hired to do. And we're being asked to consult very specifically on the issues of those 3 crimes I talked about. My image of Oakland was not a good one, being quite frank with you. I read what you write. And a lot of what's been written about Oakland, unfortunately, on the front pages of many papers around the country has been about the city's murder rate and its issues, and more recently, a lot of the disturbances around the Occupy Wall Street movement. In terms of the what do we bring to the plate, if you will, a fresh perspective. There's an old adage, everything old is new again. There may be not many new ideas around, but it's how you apply them at different times. I've been doing this for a long time. I think I've been pretty successful at it. As a chief of police, in the 20 years I served as a chief of police, there was never a year that crime did not go down in the environment I was in, the cities I was in, or the agencies. I think this is a very winnable situation here in Oakland. I think there's a lot of opportunity here to make some early gains very quickly, and I think you're going to see that some of those gains are going to be made very quickly.
It's really reducing the fear of crime for this community, for people to be able to go to the store, buy milk, hang out in the corners, do things that every American citizen, every citizen in this United States should have the right to do in their own community and not be accosted or shot and robbed and all those things that are usually plaguing many communities, including here in Oakland. So that is my benchmark, and that's what I hope to accomplish here.
Now we ask ourselves, is Oakland really safe with gang injunctions? Our team goes to the street to find out.
Do you have any idea what Californian city has the highest crime rate? According to CNN, it's Oakland, which is also the 3rd most dangerous city in the United States. Last year, Oakland had 131 homicides, the most in 4 years. So, who commits these crimes?
I have a business partner, an ex-business partner, who has a nephew, who had a nephew, who was killed up here on 41st in Santa Rita. 19 years old. I knew him since he was a baby. He got killed by a gang member because he had a stupid red cap on.
We estimate close to 60% of the serious violence when we talk about shootings and homicides are related to gang activity. And that's based on some studies that we've had done.
In 2010, the Oakland Police Department issued gang injunctions that named 15 individuals as so-called gang members from North Oakland, and later, in 2012, added another 40 from the Fruitville district. The injunctions imposed a curfew on those listed and restricted them from associating with one another, possessing weapons, doing drugs, and recruiting gang members. Any violation would result in up to 6 months in jail and up to a $1,000 fine. The gang injunction angered the community, which led to protests in the streets and city council meetings. Ruben Leal is a Fruitville native who believes he was wrongly listed on the gang injunction.
When I first got served the papers, that wasn't when I found out I was on the gang injunction. I found out before that, and I was shocked. I was actually going to Laney at the time and taking some classes there. I didn't think I was still like on their radar or anything like that.
Cesar Cruz teaches a social justice class called Adelante to students at Arise High School. He is also the founder of Homies Empowerment, an organization that brings together members of opposing gangs.
We had 2 individuals who were not at all in any kind of gang, but because they were put on this list, they were being followed, they were being criminalized, they were being searched all the time, and they came and they testified and they brought witnesses, but in the end it didn't matter because it was their word next to this officer's word.
Being placed on the gang injunction affected me and my family's life like in a negative way. Like, we were stigmatized. I haven't been convicted of a crime as an adult. I'm already 24, about to be 25, so I feel like they're punishing me for like something that happened, in my past when I was young.
Oftentimes, the injunctions were not even enforced, so in effect, people like Ruben were negatively impacted for no reason.
If there is a breaking of the restrictions that are put on somebody in terms of a gang injunction, the follow-through should be that, in fact, if they are still involved in restricted activities, then they need to be in jail. If that's not happening, then there needs to be a reason why we spend so much money on gang injunctions to put these restrictions on people if, in fact, they're still involved in criminal activity.
I think it's a little early for us. We just haven't had the data analyzed as of yet to actually say to you that just the gang injunction is reducing violence or making the community safer.
No, they're not working. It can't work because, first of all, even to have an injunction, you have to have someone to uphold the injunctions. In other words, the people who are policing need to be more visible, and they're just not. There's not enough visibility here, probably not enough police personnel.
A lot of times, gang injunctions, they say that they're kind of effective, but what happens is they spread the crime somewhere else.
And what we've seen since the gang injunction is that crime in those areas have been reducing steadily. Now, that's not to say that crime in other parts of the city has not been increasing, and we don't know if there's a correlation between those two.
We've deemed them criminals. We've deemed them a nuisance in our community. We've wiped 400 blocks clean, and violence has now gone up.
Michael Siegel, an attorney who represented Ruben and others listed on the gang injunctions, stated in an email that, quote, "We estimate the OPD has spent approximately $3 million on the gang injunctions so far."
It's up to the chief of police to figure out when, at what point, he'd like to do an analysis of the effectiveness of the gang injunction.
If you're going to implement a policy that's not working and it's expensive to boot, it needs to stop.
So what's next for Oakland Police Department? Operation Ceasefire. Ever since Ceasefire began last October, it seems the gang injunctions have been dropped.
Ceasefire is what we're focused on because we want this community to be safer. And we know that if we implement ceasefire correctly, if we follow through on the promises that we make, that we could be successful at this strategy.
Ceasefire is a partnership with the community where certain individuals are offered opportunities for education and job training if they stop their criminal activities. If not, they will face a prison term.
My understanding about the ceasefire program previously was that there wasn't that follow-through. They sat the guys down, they told them, look, we're going to be focusing on you. We have these resources that you can avail yourself of. And then when in fact they continued in criminal activity, there wasn't a follow-through with the threat But I understand the fact that there's a real desperation on the part of OPD, given their limited resources, to deal with this crime problem, which is getting worse.
In response to the gang injunctions, Ruben partnered up with local groups to create a mural and a community garden. This was a way for him to both contribute to and show pride in his community.
Programs are getting cut, parks are getting closed, libraries are getting closed, for them just to be spending that money on that. And right now, they're not even enforcing the gang injunction right now. So I feel like all that money just went down the drain, like an epic fail.
We understand that a lot of kids go to gangs as a second family, as a sense of protection.
I see some gangs, they look out for the neighborhood, and then some don't, some gangs selling drugs and whatnot, but I think a lot of these kids that are in gangs, they're just trying to find some outlet, I would think, as an alternative to a gang injunction would be you named all these people that are having trouble, try to help them out, try to see if they could transform their lives around.
So it's not telling a kid, leave a gang. It's saying, what's the gang doing? Could the gang take care of the neighborhood? Can you have a healthy gang member? But most people get scared of that idea. They don't want to hear that you can fix a gang. They don't want to hear that a gang member can be healthy and empowered and have access to resources and take care of the neighborhood.
That was interesting. What do you think about it, Vanessa?
Gangs are a heavy topic, but I'm not sure the problem of violence can be solved with just a simple injunction. There has to be other ways that the police can make the city safe.
Definitely. Let's hear about what Oakland residents have to say about safety in our city.
Burglary and a lot of shootings in my neighborhood.
Drugs, violence, like fighting.
People selling drugs, people driving around in stolen cars. We'll probably monitor the corners a little bit better. Maybe come through the neighborhoods a little bit more often.
The first thing, like I said, is getting out of the car and actually talking to people and just being out on the streets and getting to know people and just kind of getting a feel for the type of people that are in the neighborhood.
I live in East Oakland, so I would love that police will come to my house more often so I can have more safety, secure.
Get out of their cars every once in a while, walk around in the community, get to know people, and that way people could trust them and be able to come to them and
talk to them. Just sit down and talk to them. Don't come there as a threat like I'm trying to arrest you or put you on the spot, but earn the trust. If a person feels like if they're gonna call you or tell you a crime is committed, and then you go back and tell the person who told you who called, or who told on them, they're not gonna do it anymore. They're gonna feel like, okay, if I tell the police officer, the people are gonna retaliate on me. You have to do it with tact. When people give you information, when they open up to you to tell you what crime is going on, what time to come in the neighborhood, learn how to do that in a professional way. Earn the people's trust, sit down and talk to them, understand what's going on in their neighborhood, and listen to them. Don't just come there as a threat. Like your police car says, you're there to protect and to serve. Serve the public by being there as a person who they consider a helper who's trying to make the neighborhood better. And don't come as a threat and just come as in peace.
The people of Oakland certainly have a lot to say, as they should.
Absolutely. Now on a lighter note, school is coming to an end for many students across the country. It's a time to reflect about the future.
So here's a speech from two of our graduating seniors here at O News.
Finally, we made it. We survived. We're done.
The horrors of high school that drained our lives.
But it prepared us for the real world, not gonna lie. And it gave us the glimpse of what life outside of school is.
From papers and projects to colleges and majors and dealing with them school haters.
You know who you are.
But guess what? It's just the tip of the iceberg. And there's more to come for you to learn.
Papers, projects, research, made me feel like I don't have a life,
All those quizzes and tests and presentations caused me misery and strife. But there's still some fun in the mess.
We met new people, we went on field trips, camped, saw plays.
and ate out to relieve that stress. We were able to even get back at our teachers in some rough games.
But it teaches us teamwork, to be together.
Learn to take losses when playing a game.
But don't ever stop trying to win.
Then, well, you'll get that acceptance letter.
And the parents, who are yelling in our ears, telling us never to stop trying to do our best, no failing, or you know what happens.
My parents still love me, even though I claim to be grown. But they don't stop warning me from doing wrong. So, you younger children still in high school,
Have fun, but don't get distracted. You don't want to fail because of how you acted. Because time is not on your side. Don't be fooled by your pride. Otherwise, it's going to hit you like a tide.
don't worry, high school will eventually end. Stay true to yourself, do you, keep fighting, surviving, and in the end, you'll win.
Like Ali said, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee.
That's all for this week.
And this semester.
But you can always check us out online at onews.me.
Stay classy, Oakland.